What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber, and we have golf back, kind of. But it's exciting. It's fun to have a different sweat. Sheets is all over the place with all what he does. So for me, I feel like just ready to get back into it. I'm going to ease my way back into it. But Sheets, it's great to have golf back. And what are your thoughts, sort of, on this this little, this 40-person tournament?
So because it's a 40-person tournament, it's a no-cut event. Mm-hmm. which is very interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one is if you do look at the projections or the sheets, so whether it be on my our site or any site, what you'll find is that when you rank guys for points per dollar, it's always going to be the lower priced guys that just show up. That doesn't mean that you have to just play the lower priced guys and leave 7,000 on the table. Okay, you're still going to want to play those other guys. The other thing is that this cuts two ways. Because it's a no-cut event, usually the stars and scrubs approach appears to be more optimal. But because of that approach is going to probably garner more ownership. So it's, as always in all GPPs, it's kind of like a push and pull between what's the best play versus what's the low owned play. And if you can find a good kind of mid-range builds, it's probably going to be kind of unique, just kind of by itself. The other thing I want to mention is, for golf in general, because remember, it's been like a month since we've had golf, and we've picked up users since then. It's the first time you're hearing us talk about golf. I just want to stress this, especially in a slate like this. You really need to be a stickler for ownership, the way kind of results distribute in golf. So if you look at some of the projections along the way, you'll have one guy that projects for like literally 1 point more than another guy that's like twice the ownership. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you how easy it is to lose a point in golf or to gain a point in golf. There's just so much freaking variance. I mean, you can think about those you could play. Like 1 millimeter off the head of the face, you shoot a 7 on a hole instead of a 4, right. And that's worth like all kinds of fantasy points. So you really want to be, at least my opinion, a real stickler for ownership and when you're playing golf DFS. So I figured I'd give that at least as a summary before we go into this slate.
Yep, that makes certainly makes a lot of sense. We've definitely learned that, and when the ownership is flocking to people other than outside of guys who I absolutely love, I really am trying to stay away from it more and more. Let's talk about it. Why don't we pull up your screen, and we'll go by tiers here.
Yeah. So what we like to do for those, again, this is for those of you that are looking for the first time. So we go by tiers, and we don't do a lot of the drill down stuff because we're not kind of drill down guys when it comes to golf. I mean, basketball will do more of that, but golf we're really just kind of getting to the plays, and saying like who we like. I mean, and just the way we come up with it. I mean, Bobby, he does his own research, and he has a really kind of a cool network of people that he talks to about golf. Some known, some unknown, kind of like secret guys that he talks to about golf. And me, I just kind of like use the projections and the models to kind of like build it. And then what I do is I try to like pick guys that the models like that are just going to be low owned. And then we kind of like go through it tier by tier. And then at the end, which I think is kind of cool, is we kind of like have a little, I don't want to say contest. We say, okay, like and we'll get to it at the end, but like who do you think is going to win after all that we said? Who's the best guy in the X range to do whatever? And then we just kind of like play the guys that we like and just kind of just let it roll. So hopefully, for those of you starting us off in the new year, we can get you off to a good start.
Yep. That's right. And so with that said, I mean, we have this is going to be a tougher one than, well, it's weird. It's not tougher with these, but where there's 40 golfers and everybody's really good for the most part, it's gonna lead to some interesting weird value, but it's also gonna make us want to, like, everybody we see on the spend ups, we're gonna want to play. So I'm gonna let you go first on each of these tiers because you've probably done a little more research than I have, but I would love to hear who you're playing at the top because all of these guys look awesome. And when everybody's awesome, I always just play Jon Rahm. Justin Thomas has been incredible at this course. I'm sorry, in this tournament, 4 top 3 finishes last 5 years. Those guys stand out maybe a little bit above, but I can't decide between everybody else. So how are you sort of ranking these guys?
So this is the way I'm ranking them. So Justin Thomas is going to rank of these guys to be the top, point per dollar, top play. And the guy who's going to rank the worst of all these guys is going to be Colin Morikawa. That's just the way it looks on my. That's just the way it looks on my board here, and it's kind of like by a lot. So, and as a result, I mean, Cole Morikawa, I mean, he's probably gonna be the lowest owned of all these guys. If that makes any sense. But you know, consider how good he is. But that's just gonna be the way it is. I want to talk about one guy in the terms of like just kind of like the way you play GPPs in general. Like people's medians aren't different, and depending on what type of tournament you play in basketball, you want to play guys that have ceilings and floors as opposed to guys medians. I really just love playing Bryson DeChambeau in GPPs. Okay, because I mean he just does things his own way, and when he's grooving, not only can he win, but he can win by a lot. And not only that, but when he's grooving, he's going for the greens in two. He has eagle upside that other people simply don't have, you know. And as you know, look, it's not that easy. That also means he's got bogey and double and X upside that people don't have, downside that people don't have either. So I'm all else being equal, would just like playing him in GPPs. And fortunately for me, he actually looks to be a good play also. So I actually like JT and DeChambeau the best. And then like I don't really like Rahm as much as those two. And Hovland being the other guy. Now again, this could be just kind of like bias for me, just because he seems like that calm Norwegian guy who just kind of is steady and whatever. So it just feels as though he's not like a ceiling floor type of guy I want to play GPPs. You know, maybe that's a mistake, but that's just kind of the impression I get. So he's going to be like the third guy, but not as high as the top. So I have my top two as being Justin Thomas and Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah, so it's interesting what you said about DeChambeau, and I just want to touch on that real quickly from a game theory perspective, because my issue with it is everybody plays Bryce. Like he doesn't end up getting low owned almost ever. He always trends with all these guys, sort of like for the same reasons you said, and because of it, it's really hard to find tournaments unless he's really struggling to get him at low ownership. And I think he's going to be really popular. Which again, they all are going to be really popular. But I'm going to side with the best golfers. The best golfer in the world, which is Jon Rahm and JT. I do think Morikawa would be my next pick if I had to pick any of them. And the Hovland thing, I actually think he ends up the lowest owned, but I do think he's obviously extremely viable. I mean, as all these guys are. Why don't you start us off with the 9K range?
Yeah, as we get to a guy later, I kind of feel the opposite. I mean, I don't. Again, I got to look back at this. I don't think DeChambeau gets high owned in these types of events. I think he gets high owned in the events where he's like, where he lays over the field. But the guys that get high owned are usually these model guys who and we'll get to one guy an example later who's like always gets highly owned. And he never seems to have a ceiling, but he does. We'll get to him later. So as far as the 9K guys, let me pull up, let me just like kind of like make that kind of like one kind of screen here. I want to say that Cantley is out. Is that true? I'm not sure. I got to confirm that. But of the 9K range, my top guy is going to be no, he's not out. Is my top two guys are going to be the two highest owned of this range, and that's going to be Cantlay and Schauffele. And again, these are guys that always, not so much Cantlay, but Schauffele gets freaking jammed in every freaking week. Like whatever people project him as being owned, you always add like 5 and 10% to that or whatever. Mm-hmm. He always gets jammed because he's super steady. You know what I mean? Those are guys are going to project as such. So and I happen to like those guys the best of the 9K range. The next guy I like the most is I got to give Mr. Bobby kind of credit for being on this guy before anybody is Sam Burns. You don't think that he's whatever a 9K guy, but he is. So I do like all three of these 9K guys. There are only three of them. I like them in a weird way more than the 10K guys, which is good because you could afford them a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. So I do like all three of them pretty much equal. I will say that Cantlay, Schauffele, and Burns. I do like them all kind of as a group.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Cantlay is actually oddly going to be the lowest owned, which is kind of a little counterintuitive. But I like all three of them as well. I personally am probably going to side with Burns and Schauffele and not play as much Cantlay. But again, it's so far I'm eating a lot of chalk. I'm going to have to do some different things as we go along. But that's just the way it is with with these tournaments with 40 people. Well, it's a small range, so let's jump into the 8Ks. And this is where I feel like you can at least start to find some guys who are going to be a little bit lower owned than others, because everybody else. Go ahead, Sheets.
Because everybody else is going to be huge chalk here,
right?
You know, so like for example, the guy I mentioned, by the way, who just always shows up in the models as being just like a lock every week is Daniel Berger.
Right.
Models love him, and because he keeps a low ball flight, he keeps the ball in the fairway. You know what I mean? Like he's a guy that's going to put up a number every week. You know, he just is. And for those people that don't think that he can put up a ceiling, dude, if I'm not mistaken, he won 2 in a row. It's relatively recently, and then he's put up like huge showdown slate numbers for me sometimes. So he's certainly capable of doing it. And as a result, he's going to be. I have him at 33%. I think in bigger binds it could be more. So I don't know. It's golf, man. Anything can happen. I don't even have him rated as the top of the 8K guys for me. I have him as okay, but the top guy I have, and it's gonna be like this because the models are gonna favor the lower price guys for the reason I mentioned earlier. Is Tony Finau. Like he's like my top guy in this whole range, and he's gonna be owned. I mean, I have him at 25% as well.
Yeah.
But I do have him ranked higher than Berger, who's going to be even higher owned. So that's something. And the second guy for me is Cam Smith, who that's not going to be any great bargain either. I have him at 20% also. But I really don't have much else. I'll tell you this, that a guy I have rated 30%, I have him lower than all those guys, is Sungjae Im. I don't know if I want to do that. So those are the top guys there. And that's pretty much what I have.
Yeah, I like I look, Brooks is going to project the worst, so of course I'm going to play Brooks.
Right.
I don't there's a very different way things work out where he could easily be 10-5 this week. Like, you know what I mean? It's not.
Oh, for sure.
There's no reason why he shouldn't be. So I like Brooks. I do like. I mean, I like Berger, but it's going to be really chalky, as is Cam Smith. I like both of those guys. I think I'd give the edge to Cam Smith personally.
Okay.
But I also want to play Matsuyama, and it's just an ownership play. I don't see him as being. I think that he gets played less than the other quote unquote like superstars, and he plays really, really well in these in the events where it's a star-studded field. So I will play Hideki as one of my priorities in this range, and I agree with you. I'm sort of skipping the Sungjae. I don't mind taking a shot on Answer just on ownership, but I probably am going to fade it. I'm probably going to fade Finau as well at high ownership. Just I tend to fade Finau more than most people do. Just again, he looks like a great play and everything, but I just don't see a need to play him at a really chalky price when I can play guys who I like just as much, just beneath him.
I'll tell you who I do not like in the 7K range. I do not like my Patrick Reed. I play him like quite a bit. And I don't like him now, but unfortunately, and this ownership is a colossal joke. I'm gonna have to update this. There's no way that a top model guy for me can be less than 10%. So it's just not going to happen. He's probably gonna end up being huge chalk after all this. But my top play is, of course, Taylor Gooch at 7,600, as he always is for me, apparently. And then my second best in this range is one who's already projected to be highly owned, and that would be Jason Kokrak. So my top two, I got no issues with any of the others. I mean, like Nah and Leishman, even whatever. Leishman's a GPP special, like he's one of those guys. But
the GPP special, but he's going to be like one of the chalkiest players, I think.
Right, like so you like to say GPP player in cash
game ownership. Yeah.
You need me? Okay.
I was really hoping you were going to say Harris English because we can get low ownership on him. What's the knock on English on this kind of course?
Nothing. I have him third. I just have him below the other. I mean, there aren't that many options, so you got to take stand somewhere. I just have him third behind Gooch and Kokrak.
Yeah, I have Gooch and Kokrak as 1 and 2 for this range as well.
What do you have for ownership for Gooch?
24.
Yeah. Okay. What am I? I don't know what my numbers are telling. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. Okay.
But I like Kokrak, Gooch, and then I would put English next. And I need to get different somewhere. And playing Patrick Reed feels like an okay time. Like people love Patrick Reed. I mean, he might be a higher owned than everybody else in this slate, honestly. I personally am off the. I will try to fade Patrick Reed, but I like Gooch, Kokrak, and English from this range as my favorites. And I don't think I think there's certainly nothing wrong with playing Billy Horschel down at the bottom at 7K.
Nope.
It's going to be popular too.
Yep.
But I like a guy he's a guy we like to play a lot, and I really like him when he's cheap like this. So you really don't need to spend all the way up. There's no reason that one of those guys has to win it as great as they are. These guys are down here. Every one of these guys is capable of winning these tournaments just about.
All right, so here comes the fun, right? As the Beatles used to say.
Yeah.
I will. All right. I mean, you really can make a case for all of them. So I'm gonna come up with a couple. Hold on. I just want to make sure this guy's in the one I'm gonna recommend. Okay. So first, like model plays, Joel Damon showing up as a model play. I have him at 10%. He probably could get more. I like Lucas Herbert as my next best model guy. And then I'll give you a couple of more, and then I'll go to the hoodoo play. Seamus Power, I like. Van Rooyen, Homa, even KH Lee. Is that all the 6Ks? I hope I didn't give all of them, but maybe I did. Yeah, so I'll prioritize them. But how about?
I know who you're going to say. Can I predict it? Can I guess?
Yeah.
Matt Jones?
No.
Damn it.
The opposite of Matt Jones. How about a guy who's like almost a little hated now? He's becoming a little bit of an anti-vaxxer sort of. How about a 2% owned Phil Mickelson?
I am absolutely. He was one of the first names I wrote down.
Awesome.
I'm into it. I absolutely can get behind it, and yeah, especially the no cut and high variance, and that's sort of what you want. Like he can put up a number without having to be on the winning lineup.
Yep, and he don't want to say he GAF. You know what I mean? Like he'll just freaking he'll go for everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, so I really like that play. Unfortunately, Homa is going to be really popular because he was originally a guy I wanted to get in, but I thought he would be a little lower owned. Power is a tough one to fade for me. I mean, again, there's a lot of good plays here, so it's easy to fade them. But Mickelson and Higo both are going to be very low owned, and I have interest in both those guys. I think Cam Davis ends up low owned as well. I don't mind him. You mentioned Dahman and Herbert, and I think they're both good plays, and there's probably better plays than Cam Davis, but I thought I'd throw in another one. Talk about so Matt Jones and KH Lee, just because these guys are 6K, I feel like they're going to be actually unowned. And I think that, I don't know. And there's all these guys at 61 and all these guys are going to be owned around them. Maybe it's worth just playing one of these guys just on game theory, like alone, or playing two of them, because there's no reason why KH Lee couldn't put up a number here or Matt Jones. And I don't know, I just don't have like a whole lot of, it's not a course thing. It's not an anything thing. It's just, I'm just trying to play a little bit the ownership game here. And I also, to that extent, Siwoo Kim is always lower owned than he's projected. And I have no problem with playing Siwoo Kim. When he's on, he's really good. And he's done really well. I mean, as you can even attest to, when he was the worst scorer in the tournament, he can put up numbers even when he has a terrible score.
Yeah.
I mean, terrible, overall. Yeah.
Terrible round.
Yeah. So,
because remember, you get a 9, it's the same as getting a 6. It's like
right. So I sort of like that. So, if I don't know how to rank the 6K range exactly for me, because I think that Power, Homa, Herbert.
Dude, you know what I'm going to do? I'm serious. I'm going to continue to update my ownership projections, continue to tweak them. I'm just going to end up taking the lowest owned of these fields. I mean, like, this is ridiculous.
It just makes sense too, doesn't it?
Many of these guys are so close.
Yep.
I mean, like, it's probably what you're just supposed to do, but And honestly, like nobody, like if you look the way I rank these guys, nobody stands out. I mean, really, like everybody's so close to one another here that I think that if you play anybody over 20% owned, unless you just have to fill out your lineups.
Right.
I think you're asking for. I have Patrick Reed at 40% ownership.
I mean, that's just seems like we don't need to do that. Like, this is golf. Yeah. So I think that's the name of the game this week. So let's try and incorporate that. So maybe what we have to do here, instead of we have a no cutter here sheet. So do we go 1 through 3? You have to pick a guy first, and then a guy who's going to finish top. No, I guess I guess we'll do the same, but we'll just have to like make it top 15 instead of top 20 on the third tier or something like that.
All right, this is what we're gonna do. So first, who's gonna win? Now you get to use whatever number you like. If you want to go below 10K, you can. I don't want to try to sucker you into it. You know what I mean? But anybody, who do you think is gonna win?
So I'm taking Rom. You're going to hear that from me all year long. Anytime Rom's playing, I'm going to basically mostly be picking him unless we see some real leak in his game.
All right, I'll take Bryce.
Interesting. That means I have to play a little bit of Bryce because of my rule.
Yeah.
JT, by the way, would get the other nod for me. So
I was flipping between those two actually.
Yeah. All right. So for the 9K
So
range,
you still have to get top 5, top 9K.
top 5.
I might go. We might try to like slant a little ownership here in this one. I don't know.
I'll go Brooks Koepka actually as because I want to get a long shot guy in there. A lower owned of the upper tier, and Koepka sort of fits that mold for me, even though Schauffele and Burns are probably the correct answer, or any of the other guys, basically.
Yeah. I opened up my big mouth with respect to. Okay. All right. Okay. Who did you say?
I said Koepka. I jumped down to the 8K range.
Okay. You know what I'm gonna do then? I'm gonna thieverize your guy. I'm gonna take Sam Burns.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
How about in the
8K range to finish top 10?
Top 10, I'm gonna go. Do I have to take all of my guys that are low on? I guess I am gonna take Cam Smith here.
Bitch. If you're gonna take Cam Smith, I'll tell you what. I'll just take what might be. He's not the lowest guy in the range because people like to play him. I just got this weird feeling he's going to play well. No, I'll go with Honest Dave. I'll go with Honest Dave.
Oh, I did not see that one coming.
I'll go with Honest Dave.
Okay.
Abe answer 8,100.
All right, so let's get down into the 7Ks then. Who are you looking at here?
7Ks, we'll call this top 15 or top 20. Top 15.
I think top 15 probably makes sense, so we can do top 20 for the 6Ks because it's only 40 players.
All right. We're gonna go with we'll take I'll do it. I'll go back. I'll go with Gooch.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Certainly like him. I am going to go with I guess after what I said, the right answer is Kokrak. I want to say English, but I like both those guys. But I think Kokrak is who I'm going to go with.
Top 20, under 7K. I have mine, but I totally have mine. It's not going to be Phil for this one.
I kind of want to play Phil though.
I'll play.
All right, so I'm going to say top 20. I'll get a little bit funny with it. I'll play Siwoo. I'll take Siwoo. You're going to take Power.
No, I'm going to take Eric Van Rooyen.
Oh, EVR. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to take Eric.
I don't think he's going to have ownership.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I like your Cam Davis idea, by the way.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an interesting one too. And I think he's going to actually be one of those guys who ends up lower on. So I want to get a little. So EVR, you said.
Yeah.
And Siwoo, I said. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much. So my priorities, I guess. We have the Rom and JT for me, but then Bryce is Sheets' guy, and I'm going to have to get some of it.
Yeah.
Burns, Koepka, Answer, Smith, English, Gooch, Davis, Mickelson, Power, Kokrak, EVR, Siwoo. Those are probably my
that's my pool probably. So there you go.
Same here. Maybe I'll throw in a Matt Jones just so we don't chop it. All right. Well, good luck to everybody this week. It's nice to have golf back, and we'll have some real big stuff coming up with golf because it's going to be. It's nice. It's just nice to have it back. Nice to have that other sport in there that we can sort of have a relaxing 4-day sweat. All right. Good luck, everybody, and hopefully somebody takes something down this weekend. Let us know.